The following is a presentation of iRacing.com Motorsport Simulations on LSRTV, the voice of sim racing.
Good evening, race fans, and welcome to those of you watching on YouTube and iRacing Live. This is LSRTV's coverage of the RealSimRacing.com Full Throttle Cup Series presented by Gary Mercer Trucking. I am James Pike, and I am joined in the booth tonight by my colleague Brian Macklin, and down to the production truck by our producer Cisco Scaramuza. Tonight we come to you from Texas Motor Speedway in Fort Worth, Texas. Macklin, it's been a little while since we've been on the air. Took a break last weekend, and in the process we saw a whole host of updates come out to the sim, most notably for our drivers here in the Full Throttle Cup Series, a brand new aero package and suspension package to match what has been changed in the 2017 Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. This is our first race in the Full Throttle Cup Series with this new package, so I wonder if there's going to be anything different that we notice in this race tonight. What should the fans expect watching at home from this new package, and how do you think that's going to change things a little bit here in Texas?
Well, I know with the new suspension package that we got with the new build, it made these cars a little bit easier to drive, especially on corner entry. So I think you're going to see less issues, especially going into turn one. That seemed to be a problem spot here at Texas in years past, and I don't think you're going to see as many issues on corner entry tonight. But I also think you're going to see these guys be able to race a little bit more with the low downforce package, like you also mentioned. There's a little bit, there's going to be a little bit more of a handling issue as the tires start to wear off, and you're going to see these guys skating around trying to find some grip. You might see some 2 and 3 wide action here before the night's over.
I think the other big question we have to ask is who can stop Aegis Motorsports? It's been a recurring theme that we've had over the past few weeks, but save for the one exception at Las Vegas, it's been all Aegis. Adam Benefield's been the only man to break that streak this season. It's been an Aegis driver to win every single one of the races otherwise. So who do you think outside of that stable can do it, and what does the rest of the field need to do in order to get one on the Aegis drivers?
Well, I think somebody that's had a lot of momentum the last couple of weeks, and he's sitting right now on the provisional pole, that is Brandon Bowie. And you're looking at the points right now, you'll see that, as you mentioned, Aegis Motorsports has been all over it this season. They control the top 2 spots with David Washington and Dylan Jones, and they've got a pair of, or 3 wins actually up there for those guys, and also a win for Trevor Rapallo back at Daytona. So definitely those guys have got control of this season. But back to your question, I do believe Brandon Bowie is one that you can definitely expect to be strong. This is one of his better racetracks, and there's still about a minute and a half left in qualifying, but he's on the pole right now. And then how about Anthony DeBarro making his triumphant return to the Full Throttle Cup Series? He sits second, and that's one driver that you definitely can't count out. He was one of the most dominant forces in this series when he was running full-time last year.
Yeah, that might be one of the ways that it gets broken as you get some new faces coming in and some returning faces. We know DeBarro's in here. Daniel Everhart is on the server tonight and will be racing in this race as well, and he played a pretty big part in the championship fight last year. So going to be interesting to see what some of these part-time drivers with a lot of experience can end up doing and shaking up this race a little bit. But yeah, also important to note here that we do not have the newly repaved Texas on the sim. This is still going to be old pavement Texas, so we don't have the banking changes in turns 1 and 2, still 24 degrees there, and in turns 3 and 4, and still with the old surface, which means tire fall off is going to be a thing. And as always tends to be the case here, getting out of turn 2 is going to be an issue because it does kind of feel like the world just falls off from you there for whatever reason. There in Dover, I've noticed throughout the summer, the two places where you really can have trouble getting out of turn 2 if you really screw it up. And I think we'll have to make sure and watch that nothing crazy happens off there. But knowing how hard it is for anybody driving one of these cars, I imagine we'll probably see something happen there of note before the night's racing is done.
Yeah, absolutely. And back to your point about coming off turn 2, with the old pavement, there is still that bump in the middle of turns 1 and 2. That's what really upsets the cars on corner exit and can get you out of control. So you definitely have to pay attention to that throughout the night. That's going to be a big problem spot for these drivers, especially as the tires wear out.
And we'll watch for that and more as we bring you the starting grid for tonight's race, where Brandon Bowie has claimed the pole with a 27.929 time. He's joined on the outside of the front row by the 96 of Anthony DeBarro. Dylan Jones and David Washington complete a second row for Aegis Motorsports. Jeff Ward starts from the 5th position. David Comstock will begin from 6th in his Aftermath Motorsports Gary Mercer Trucking number 40 machine. Carl Shedd starts from 7th, another one of the Aegis drivers, joined by the 69 of Corbin Hemstreet, who begins from 8th this evening. Galen Gidman will start from the 9th position, and Dwayne Vincent, stalwart of the series, will start from 10th.
We have another pair of the Aegis Motorsports starting in row number 6. Trevor Rapallo, Daytona winner. He starts 11th here tonight. Then Joseph Tice will start at his outside in that 12th position. In the 13th position, we have Bruce Ackerman, and at his outside, Stefan Marinak. Then we have Stephanie Lessentine in the 15th position, with Ross Kaler to her outside starting 16th. Jose Gonzalez driving that meatball machine. He starts 17th here tonight. And then Scott Stenzel starts 18th, with Greg Evans starting 19th, and Christopher Hurlow starting 20th.
Keith Madero starts from the 21st position this evening. The number 20 Toyota of A.J. Browning starts from 22nd. Scott Sibley will begin from 23rd, joined on the outside of row 12 by Sean Casto from 24th. Mike Kelly starts 25th. Sean Baldy, 26th. Kyle Tarasca starts 27th. Seth Foudy, 28th. Nelson Rivera and Joe Hudson. Your top 30 as the rest of the starting field runs down across your screen. Move on to a few track facts about Texas. We already mentioned that this is the old racing surface, so 24 degrees of banking in turns 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5 degrees of banking on the back straightaway and in the tri-oval. We will go for 125 laps this evening, and at a mile and a half a lap, that will give you a grand total distance of 187.5 miles to be run. Should be an entertaining race, Brian.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is going to be a very exciting race. Expect a lot of long green flag runs, and once these tires really start to wear out, watch for these drivers to be skating around all over the racetrack trying to find grip, and expect a bunch of action at the front. You got a couple of really hungry drivers racing up there that want to try to get themselves a victory. Should be a blast.
Bowie's been strong in pieces of races, hasn't really put a full race together yet this season, so I imagine you're right on the money with that. He will probably be hunting for one with a little bit more fervor than you would normally see, as will the rest of this field. But pace car comes off, green flag comes out. Tonight's LSRTV coverage of the Gary Mercer Trucking Full Throttle Cup Series is underway, and Bowie jumped away by about 2 or 3 car lengths on the opening lap. DeBarro was able to slide into second and cut in front of Dylan Jones, but they're side by side back behind him. After Washington cuts in and slides into 4th, you've got Ward 5th, and it's David Comstock and Carl Shedd racing for 6th and 7th. So I guess we'll go back to 8th and 9th, where Corbin Hemstreet and Galen Gidman are your first side-by-side battle coming through turn 4.
Yeah, on the opening lap of this race, everybody's fighting for the bottom of the racetrack. Galen Gidman's going to be able to move ahead of Corbin Hemstreet as they complete lap 1. He's going to move into the 8th position, and now through most of the top 15, they're single file. So we go back to the front. Brandon Bowie is trying to pull away, but Anthony DeBarro is already starting to close back in on him as they work down the back straightaway here. He's got a great run down the back stretch going into turn 3, and he's got that number 11 machine of Dylan Jones chasing him right behind him. You got 4 cars you could throw a blanket over here at the front of the field right now.
all three of those cars behind Bowie, at least immediately behind Bowie, because there's already about a 3 to 4 car length gap between David Washington and Jeff Ward, are able to get through the center of the corner a lot better than Bowie is at the moment. So we'll see if we end up with any sort of battle for the lead here momentarily. But I do want to kind of look at the fact that everybody's really strung themselves out very quickly. You have to go all the way back to Ross Cato in 18th to find your first side-by-side battle at the moment. Everybody's, well, I was going to say side-by-side battle, and then looks like Dwayne Vincent got into the side of, couldn't tell who that was there, but nearly sent him through pit road and spinning around and backwards, but he was able to gather it back on track, so we'll stay green for the moment. But everybody racing tight and testy. Here comes David Washington now underneath his teammate as they go into turn 3, and you see the replay of what happened on your screens now.
Yeah, Bruce Ackerman, you see him go sliding through the infield on the front stretch there. A little bit of contact off turn 4, it looks like, and that's what sent him around. So fortunate for everybody else, no contact with other cars, no caution, so we're going to stay green here, and he's going to just have to wait for his time to get back up and caught up with the field. But back to the front here, you see these guys are now starting to lap Bruce Ackerman. It looks like Bowie's starting to get through the center of the corner just a little bit better, James. He struggled the first couple of laps. I think maybe he was just trying to get into a rhythm, but now that he's starting to get into that rhythm, he's starting to pull away from these guys, and we have a battle back around the 5th position. That's David Comstock battling with Carl Shedd. That's for actually it's for 6th and 7th. They're side by side heading off into turn 1. Comstock's moving up the track, and it looks like Carl Shedd's going to take that position, but Comstock's coming back, and we have a caution.
Yellow flag out. Might have been something in turn 1. Couldn't quite tell what it was. We'll get the replay up for you momentarily. Also, we'll note that David Washington cleared Anthony DeBarro for the 2nd spot. So hearing now that Ross Cato is the reason for the yellow as the replay comes up. Brian, I imagine you probably had a little bit better view of it than I did. So go ahead and enlighten us on what happened there.
Yeah, that happened going down the front straightaway. Bruce Ackerman was still trying to get up to speed, and it looks like the lead lap cars just struggled to get by him because he was so far off the pace, and Ross Cato made contact with him and a couple other cars going into turn 1, and it just sent them all around it and caused a pretty big little pileup here through the middle of the corner. Actually, it looks like maybe just 2 or 3 cars got caught up, but still just one of those deals where they were trying to work their way past a lap car that was way off the pace, and there just wasn't enough room for all that.
How funny that is that we think of these corners in Texas as being so wide, and you could run 2 and 3 wide through them pretty easily, but even then, sometimes when everybody gets bunched up on the apron like that, you run out of room, and it looks like that's what happened between Ackerman and Cato. I think the big question now is for everybody else that's still running, do you bother pitting? Do you make the move down pit road? Looks like the answer to that is going to be yes, because just about everybody who's going to follow Brandon Bowie down for, I would imagine, at least 2 tires of fuel. I'll be curious to see if anybody goes with just 2, though, this early. With the tire fall off, as bad as it is here in Macklin, could see somebody go for 2, but I think most of these drivers will probably take 4.
More than likely, everybody's going to take 4, but if you're going to take that chance and go for 2 tires, this would be the time to do it. It's so early in the race that you have plenty of time to rebound if it doesn't work out. We're watching for somebody. It looks like Anthony DeBarro and Brandon Bowie are both going to take 2 tires, and so is Corbin Hemstreet. It looks like DeBarro is going to win the race off of pit road, followed by Bowie and then Hemstreet, and then everybody else, it looks like, is going to go ahead and take 4 tires. David Washington comes out, and then Dylan Jones, and then Jeff Ward, but that's a very interesting call. I would not have expected your 2 front runners to take 2 tires. I would have expected somebody back around the 10th to 15th position to make that decision. But I guess now, James, we're going to see just how well those 2 tires are going to work out.
Trying to figure out what's more impressive, the fact that Bowie and DeBarro both took 2 tires, and that DeBarro was able to beat Bowie off of pit road. Be curious to see how that plays out. Oh, by the way, David Washington took 4 tires there, and sits in the 4th spot as he did a few laps ago. So we'll have to watch and see. He'll be the pace setter for those that took 4 tires, because everybody behind that 98 Aegis Motorsports Ford Fusion took 4 as well. While we are under caution, we'll take a moment to let you know that tonight's broadcast of the Full Throttle Cup Series is brought to you by RealSimRacing.com. RealSimRacing.com has a league for every iRacing driver, including the Winston Cup Series on Wednesday nights and the Midnight Thunder Speedway Series on Thursday nights. For more information, you can visit them at www.realsimracing.com. So, still working to sort out the field here under yellow. Got 2 cars that stayed out here. Eric Arnold and Jeffrey Ford, it looks like, are the 2 that are going to go with no tires and fuel and wait off a little bit. Hold off for that first round of pit stops for those 2 cars. So, when we go back to the green flag, it will be Arnold and Ford, and then DeBarro, Bowie, and Hemstreet, your top 5. The first 2 did not take tires or anything at all, didn't come down. The next 3 took 2 tires, and then everybody from Washington on back took 4. So, be curious to see how this plays out. We've got to make some strategies at the front of the field, Brian, and I think we're really going to see just how much tire fall off means here in this next run if it stays green.
Yeah, absolutely, and it looks like actually Jeffrey Ford's going to go ahead and come to pit road. However, Eric Arnold is going to stay out, so we have at least one driver that's going to stay out on no tires. And then, like you mentioned, we got DeBarro, Bowie, and Hemstreet on 2. Your first driver on 4 tires is going to be David Washington. And with the number 95 machine of Jeffrey Ford pulling to pit road, he's going to get to restart on the bottom of the racetrack, which typically here at Texas is the preferred groove on restart. So having those 4 fresh tires is certainly going to play in his favor. However, I am very curious to see how this works out for all 4 of these drivers up front. We only ran 7 laps on those tires, so there's not a ton of laps ran on them to wear them out. They may not be too bad off. This is going to be a very good test. I'm kind of glad we get to see it this early in the race. Gives us an idea of what to expect for later on.
And it's not like there's necessarily any sort of window that you're trying to hit either, because you're still going to have to come down to pit road, I think, at least twice by my count in order to make it back to the checkered flag, that is. So, going to be interesting to watch and see what happens. I think especially with Arnold, since he did stay out, does it make that much of a difference if you only have 7 laps on your tires compared to everybody else? But time to find out and see. Pace car gets ready to turn to the left, makes the move. Arnold goes. Green flag is back out in the air for our first restart of the evening, and he doesn't quite get the start that Bowie did. Bowie's still right there on the outside, that 44 car hanging tough. Going to go up, and looks like Bowie's going to be able to clear and go to the front as they come out of turn 2. And David Washington, no surprise there that he comes up as Eric Arnold just gets swallowed up by this field. 2 and 4 tire drivers going every which way to get past the 31 as they go through 3 and 4. Already looks like the no tire strategy isn't really working out all that well.
Yeah, absolutely, and back to the front. Here comes David Washington on those 4 fresh tires. He's all over the back bumper of Brandon Bowie. He goes wide into turn 1, goes up the track. Looks like he's trying to get a big run off the corner, and he's going to have that run as they come off turn 2, but he fell back just a little bit, so he's not really going to get close enough to Bowie to make a move. And so far, I'm looking at this up front, and it looks like the 2 tires are holding up pretty well for Bowie, as they are for DeBarro as well. DeBarro, who got stuck behind Eric Arnold on that restart, he got around him. He's sitting in 3rd, but we have a battle for the lead now, as here comes David Washington looking to the outside once again. He goes high back up in turn 1 again.
Through everything, trying to make it happen. Up on the outside, going into turn 2. Down the back, still side by side, and he's right there.
And look at this battle up front right now as Bowie and David Washington still going at it at the front. David Washington has not been able to find his way around Brandon Bowie, but he is fighting very hard trying to make this happen. He moves to the bottom of the racetrack now. He's slowly starting to work his way to the back bumper of Brandon Bowie. These guys are racing hard up front, and behind them, Anthony DeBarro is just trying to hang on. He's got Corbin Hemstreet right behind him, challenging him for 3rd, and just not able to get anywhere close to him. Meanwhile, back up front, battle for the lead. They're side by side. Bowie goes up top, and here comes David Washington off turn 4. He's going to take the lead for the first time today, and Aegis Motorsports has went back to the front as they go into turn 1. David Washington is your new race leader, and he's starting to pull away already. He's got 2 car lengths over Brandon Bowie as they come off turn 2. He's trying to drive away from these guys now. And it looks like we're still single file back through the 3rd and 4th position. Everybody in the top 10 right now has gotten kind of settled in, so at this point we're just kind of looking to see just how long this run is going to go, and look to see how long the tires are going to last for somebody like Brandon Bowie and Anthony DeBarro. Now that we have a little bit of a run established, these guys might be in just a little bit of trouble, because as the run goes on, their tires are going to fade a little bit quicker than the rest of them. And Cisco, I'm going to bring you in for just a moment here. What are your thoughts on these guys if this race stays green for a while, having 2 tires versus the other drivers up front that are battling with 4?
Well, I think we're going to see what exactly happened to Brandon Bowie right there. He's already back to second. And I mean, they're holding on for the time being, but we know how old this surface is, and we know how bumpy it is and how rough it's going to treat those 2 tires. I just think this is a good short-term strategy, but if they go for a long green flag run, it's not going to be very helpful for those guys. They're run second and third at the moment, but I don't think they're going to be able to do a whole lot more after that.
And not a whole lot going on up inside the top 10 right now, but we do have a nice battle shaping up just outside of the top 10. Galen Gidman, Carl Shedd, Joseph Tice, those guys are racing hard back there out just outside of the top 10. You've got Galen Gidman up on the outside line. He's been trying to fight these guys off for the last lap and a half or so, and he has lost a couple of positions. He's now battling side by side with Carl Shedd as they head off into 3. Joseph Tice looking for room on the bottom as well, and he's going to take that position, and they are now just freight training Galen Gidman up on the outside line. He just lost about 3 positions in 1 lap because he got stuck up on the outside line, and that's not the place you want to be at this stage of the race. The tires still have a lot of grip in them, Cisco, so the bottom of the racetrack all the way around is the fastest way to get around this racetrack right now.
Yeah, and now Eberhard is going to jump to the bottom right there at the 87. A Hurlo right behind him. Eberhard going to send it into 3 here. First race back for the driver of the number 90, back and in the familiar colors of that number 90, but he's still to the quarter panel of Hurlos. They head through the tri-oval right now, back to turn 1. Meanwhile, battle in front of them, Carl Shedd going side by side with the 24 Nick Silver.
And these guys have just been going at it for the last 5 or 6 laps. It looks like he's going to be able to make that move on Scott Stenzel, but Scott's going to fight back on the outside line. However, once they get down into turn 3, Joseph Tice is going to have the preferred line, and he's going to clear Scott Stenzel for that position, so he's going to move into the 13th position when they cross the stripe right here. He's starting to move his way forward, and like you mentioned, Daniel Eberhard, he started P41 in this race. He did not take a lap in qualifying. He's climbed all the way up to the 16th position right now, so he is by far our biggest mover on the race at this point. And I just want to update everybody back at the front. Nothing has changed. David Washington is still your leader. He's got about a 3-car length advantage on Brandon Bowie. Then Anthony DeBarro sits in that 3rd position. We do have a little bit of a battle starting to shape up around Dylan Jones and the number 69 of Corbin Hemstreet. Corbin is also one of those drivers that's on 2 tires, and we're starting to see him fade the longer this run gets. He just lost 2 positions in a lap to Jeff Ward and Dylan Jones. He falls back to the 6th spot.
Yeah, and now Ward continues to lead here as they head down the backstretch once again into turn 3. Hemstreet was able to get single file with those guys. You look up front, and the 44, he's starting to keep pace with Dave here, and he's slowly catching him here. It's down to 0.2 of a second. He's keeping him in sight here, Brian. I'm really surprised as the 11 of Dylan Jones is going to jump to the bottom of the 89 of Jeff Ward there. Ward going to yield that position to the number 11 Aegis Motorsports Chevrolet. And back up front, though, I mean, the 44, he's hounding the 98 right now. He's keeping that gap around 0.2 of a second. He's going to be very dangerous there if they continue, and he's not able to fend that off.
Yeah, I've got to say, I'm very impressed with both Bowie and DeBarro at this point. I did not expect the 2 tires to last this long for them. We're about 15 laps into this run at this point, and they are both still up in 2nd and 3rd position. And like you mentioned, Bowie, he gave up that lead, and he kind of fell a little bit behind David for a few laps, but he has closed that gap. It's down to just over a car length right now as they head into turn 3, and he is just continuing to close. It really looks like his car is getting through the center of the corner a lot better than Washington's at this point. He gets off the corner really good, and that's where he makes up the most of his time. And now you see he's all over the back bumper of Washington, and it looks like Washington's going to pull high for him as they go off into 1. They're side by side, and it looks like David Washington's going to heed the position. I say that, but here comes David fighting back off turn 2. They're still fighting for this race lead down the backstretch.
Yeah, side by side as they head into turn 3 right now, and the 44 still on the bottom. He's looking to see if he can slide up in front of that 98. He's going to get a great bite through the corner, but the 98's going to use the horsepower on the high side, and he's going to be able to hold on to it still side by side as they head back into turn 1 once again. Dave Washington up trying to use that high line, trying to get the momentum to flow through the corner. It's not going to work, though. The 44 going to slide up, and here comes Dave. Counterattack. He's going to get to the bottom of the inside, or the inside here into turn 3. Crossover move for the 98. He's going to get the lead back here, but you got to think, here comes the 44 to try and recross him over.
And he does just that off turn 4. They're side by side once again, and the more they do this, the closer that we have a challenger, Dylan Jones. The closer he gets every single lap, he's closed into just under half a second at this point. And as we said that, Brandon Bowie goes back to the point. David Washington was not close enough to make another crossover move, so he's going to slot into second position and just try to stay on the back bumper of Bowie, see if he can't make him make a mistake and try to get back by him. And as they go through turns 3 and 4, he really closed the bumper again. I almost think he made Bowie overdrive just a little bit. Here we go again, side by side for the lead as they head to turn 1.
98's going to stick the nose down there this time as they head back into turn 1 yet again. The 98, he's going to get the grip down there. Maybe a little loosened up the 44, or he just got to the bottom of him. Either way, Dylan Jones is loving this because he's now within a car length of these guys. As they head to turn 3, he's going to follow his teammate down there, but he's got the tires. Dave's been battling up there. Dylan just took it straight to the bottom, and this is now a 3-horse race, maybe 4, because Jeff Ward isn't that far behind.
Yeah, the more these leaders race for the lead, the more cars that are able to start closing in. And it looks like Bowie decided to heed the position of both those drivers. He went high in turn 1, and he backed off and let both David Washington and Dylan Jones go by there as they went through turns 1 and 2. And we are under caution here once again at the Texas Motor Speedway. Not sure exactly what happened yet. We'll have to catch up with you in just a moment. And it looks like I might have found it here in turns 1 and 2. The number 87 machine was around. That is Christopher Hurlow. Brings out the second caution of the night here.
Yeah, sorry, it was having to get the old pop filter going there, but we're gonna see if we can track down what happened with the 87 and replay on your screen. A little bit of a touch there from the 24 and Nick Silver, and that's gonna spin the 87 around. Caution's gonna come out. You saw Coop on the high side, the 7 of Rivera, and looks like, oh, and he got T-boned by Lesson Team, the 22, so that's a blown motor for the Stem Sim X Ford. And as for Hurlow, he's got some rear end damage and now some side damage as well. Big damage for that Superman Lowe's Chevrolet.
Yeah, that was a very unfortunate wreck right there for Christopher Hurlow. He's going to have his hands full. His pit crew's going to have his hands full getting that car fixed up. And I think this is a lucky break for both Anthony DeBarro and Brandon Bowie. While Brandon Bowie was doing a very good job at hanging on with those 2 tires, DeBarro was starting to slide back, as was Corbin Hemstreet. Corbin Hemstreet had fallen all the way back to 8th, and now they're going to have the opportunity to come back down the pit road and try to get 4 tires this time, and everybody comes. I don't think you're going to see anybody stay out after that long of a run. David Washington led them to pit road. He's got Dylan Jones right behind him with Bowie behind them, and I expect, Cisco, that we'll see all of these drivers take 4 tires this time by.
That's what we're thinking we're going to see, Macklin, but we'll just have to wait to see if anyone tries. Crazy 44 going to blow through the box. Nope, they're going to let him service it. He's over the line, but I guess he just got under the stop sign there. And as we're waiting to see 4 tires for everyone, 1 car rolled through. I believe that was one of the Lowe's cars. We'll have to check on that in a moment. But Dave Washington, huge pit stop. He's going to lead everyone off pit road. Dylan Jones was able to sneak by the 44. Everyone else, for the most part, is going to be single file. Dwayne Vincent, though, lost a couple of positions.
Yeah, absolutely. An amazing stop for David Washington right there, followed by, it looks like, Dylan Jones and then Brandon Bowie, Jeff Ward, and a host of other drivers. We will shake up this top 10 after we come back from a quick commercial break. We're going to just step aside for one quick moment. This is LSRTV, the voice of sim racing.
Racing, you want of the best. You got him four abreast. Often imitated, never duplicated. The greatest show on dirt. The World of Outlaws.
So cool, yeah. Nate, what are you working on at the moment?
So I'm working on the animation for the game. We're working on getting pit crews fully developed, and that involves a lot of moving parts. So I'm going in and making sure that each moving part can dovetail smoothly into the next one, so that when you pull in for a pit stop, it looks like the real thing, as opposed to a bunch of jumbled pieces that suddenly stop and then go and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's so cool, but why aren't you working on the time model? Nothing?
Welcome back to the 2017 RSR Full Throttle Cup Series presented by Gary Mercer Trucking right here on LSRTV. Well, we had to switch spots a little bit, and Cisco Scaramuza up in the booth now with Brian Macklin. And Brian, we get set to restart after pit stops here, and Dave Washington had a fantastic pit stop here. And we're getting the mic adjusted a little bit there, but Dave Washington's going to leave these guys at the field. A great pit stop by him and his team.
Yeah, absolutely. They got him 4 fresh tires and fuel, and they got him down and away quicker than anybody else. But we're about to go back green here. The pace car is going to pull to the safety of pit road, and Washington's going to take off as soon as the pace car ducks away. We're back under green here at the Texas Motor Speedway. His teammate to his outside got a great restart as well, and they go single file into turn 1. You have to look back to third now. Brandon Bowie is trying to hang on for third. He's got Anthony DeBarro right behind him, and now Jeff Ford is trying to slide in single file down the back straightaway now. And here comes Bowie to the inside of Dylan Jones as they head to turn 3. He's challenging for second, and he's going to easily take that position away from Dylan. He slots in now, and now he's going to set his sights on race leader David Washington. They want to renew the battle they were having before this caution came out.
Yeah, and Bowie now trying to catch up to the 98 of Washington here, see if he can get back that position that he lost on pit road. He's going to do everything he can to go get that, but for right now, he's going to make up that gap. Meanwhile, pretty much everyone single file all the way back until you hit one of the Aegis cars. That's the 9 of Trevor Rapallo. He's up on the high side, going side by side with the 88 of Tarasca, and I believe the 36 of Nick Silver. I just called that car earlier, but Silver in the 36 tonight, he's still side by side with Rapallo.
And these guys are having a really good battle back there for the 13th and 14th position. Trevor Rapallo, your Daytona winner, he's trying to fight back on the outside line. Looks like he's going to heed that position to the 36 machine, and now he's got A.J. Browning to his inside, and they're still battling. Right behind him, you see Gallon Goodman trying to make some moves down into turn 3. And it looks like this outside line, Cisco, is starting to come in just a little bit. You're seeing these guys be able to at least hold their ground on the outside line. This has got to be encouraging, especially as the laps wind on, to be able to use that middle groove or that high groove to try to make something happen. You've got to believe that as the tires wear out, you're going to see more drivers start to venture up there.
Well, I think Rapallo's thinking, hey, what are you guys talking about the outside line work? And it didn't work for me because he just lost 2 or 3 positions in that one corner. He lost out to Browning, the number 2 as well of Mike Kelly, and then his teammate Daniel Eberhardt. So all those guys going past the 9. The 9 looks like he's in trouble because he's now under attack from the 52 of Sean Casto. Galen Gidman not too far in pursuit. Bounty got a little bit loose there. I think he got the nose chopped off just a little bit. And Rapallo finally going to try and find his place in line here. Meanwhile, in front of those guys, still crazy as Silver looked to the inside of the 20 of Browning there. Wasn't able to get the job done, but for the most part, everyone's single file now, and they've been doing this all night, been able to keep the pack single file for the most part, and doing a great job of it right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And that battle between A.J. Browning and Nick Silver, that actually started about a lap ago. Going off into turn 1, A.J. Browning made a little bit of contact with Nick Silver going off into turn 1, set him up the track just enough where he was able to get by. Almost a Martinsville bump and run kind of move, but it was just enough to get him out of the way. And I don't think Nick Silver really appreciated that, which is what led to him trying to make the move down in turn 3. it might be something to look forward to as the laps wind on. He's probably not going to forget that. But right now, he's got to worry about what's going on behind him as well, as they're battling side by side. Right behind it, you got the number 2 of Mike Kelly, and you got the number 90 of Daniel Eberhardt. Daniel is just slowly and methodically starting to work his way up through the field. That position is going to move him into the 15th position right there, and now he's going to set his sights on Nick Silver as well. Slowly but surely, I think we're going to see Daniel Eberhardt get up here and challenge these guys for the top 5.
And you may be wondering, if you're a new viewer to this series, who is this Daniel Eberhardt guy? Well, if you catch your mind back to last season, you can see all the videos back from that season on our channel, of course. But you look back to that, Daniel Eberhardt, one of the most aggressive drivers in the series last season, was able to make the Final 4 and was absolutely gunning for that championship win. Eberhardt, though, came up short, and after that, he decided to take a little bit of a break, waiting to see what would happen with the dirt, with the iRacing dirt physics coming out and all the dirt-related content that came out. After that dropped, he decided, hey, you know what? Maybe I'm going to hop back in the car. So that's what he did. And he comes out here, and what's kind of interesting, Brian, we're talking about that 90. Also, keep in mind, the guy who's been up front for most of the night here, who's been driving that 96, Anthony DeBarro, we haven't talked about him this whole season because he hasn't been here either. He's had some work commitments, but now he's got free time, and look at that. He's running 4th right now. That 96 also very fast. Both of these guys who just come back, this is their first race back, Brian, and they're doing amazing.
Yeah, I don't think I'm surprised that either one of them are running as well as they are. Anthony DeBarro was one of the staples of this series when he was running full-time, and he was one of those guys that week in and week out you had to expect to be up there contending for the win. And he's sitting in 4th right now, but by the end of this race, I expect he's going to be up there challenging for the race lead and trying to win this race. And the same thing can be said for Daniel Eberhardt. Like you mentioned, last year he was in the Final 4 at Homestead and came up just a little short of being able to win that championship. And you've got to believe that he's back now. He's out for blood. He wants to try to go up there and win as many races as he can when he's on the track and prove to these guys he's still the workhorse that he was a year ago. And I think you're going to see that throughout the course of this night and throughout the course of the next several weeks as we see him back on track. He's making his way up through the field. He's up to 14th right now, and he's having to do this all the way from the back because he started in the 41st position. That's a lot of cars to pass in just 45 laps. That's very impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dylan Jones just going past the 44 of Brandon Bowie there, or Brandon Bowie rather, and that's going to move Jones back up to 2nd here, and he's going to set his sights on his teammate in front of him. But his teammate Dave Washington is 1 second in front of the field. But you look at top of the ticker, that lead is already falling. It's fallen 1/10 already. Jones is taking bites out of Washington's lead right now.
Well, I think we're seeing that David Washington on the initial laps of the restart, he took off and he was running this car really hard. And I think now you're starting to see that come back to bite him just a little bit because some of these guys that are behind him, they took their time and they saved their tires. And as this run gets a little bit longer, his tires are fading a lot quicker than everybody behind him. And I think that's a big factor into why we're seeing these guys start to close in on him. It won't be very long before Dylan Jones will be up there challenging for the race lead as he just took off about another 1/2 tenth right there that last time by. He's the only one that's really closing on David at this point, but he's doing it in chunks, and that's going to get him there in a hurry. I do want to talk about somebody else right now having a very quiet night. That's David Comstock. He's sitting back in the 6th position, which is where he started, but long runs are something that he is really good at as well, and the longer this race goes, I think you're going to see him start to march his way to the front as well. He's all over the back bumper of Anthony DeBarro right now, and actually he's going to go side by side with him as they go off into turn 1. He's going to try to take that 5th position away from DeBarro, and he will do just that. He clears DeBarro in turn 1.
Yeah, he jumps to the inside of DeBarro there and is able to make that pass done out of turn 2 right now. So move David Comstock. He's up to that 5th position right now, broken into the top 5, and he's closing in now. The next car in front of him is going to be the 89 of Jeff Ward. And Jeff Ward at this point, he's been kind of stationary up in this top 5 all night. But he's got to worry because that 89, he's made his way through the field, and he's doing a very good job of it.
Yeah, absolutely. He has done an incredible job as well. He started in the 5th position. He's up to 4th right now, and he is just continuing to march his way to the front. He's starting to close in on Brandon Bowie as they work down the back straightaway. Bowie's tires seem to be going away at this point. Very surprising considering he held on so well with the 2 tires at the beginning of this race. I'm very surprised to see that he's having the issues he's having right now, but he's starting to slide his way backwards here with Jeff Ward and David Comstock both starting to close in on him. And that gap up front Cisco. It is closed down to just under 4 car lengths now. Dylan Jones is there, and he is taking huge chunks out of this lead right now. He gets a big run off turn 2, and he's right on the back bumper of Washington as they head to 3.
Yeah, on the back bumper here as they head through 3 and 4 once again. Dylan Jones tracking down his mentor, Dave Washington. He's going to look to the inside this time across the start-finish line to get to lap 50 completed. They're starting 51 here, and Jones, job done already, jumps to the inside. He's past the 98. I don't think Dave's even going to have the opportunity for a crossover move. That's how fast the 11 is, and new leader, that number 11 car.
Yeah, absolutely. A very impressive drive for Dylan Jones right there, and it might be a statement move by Dylan Jones to jump out in front of him at lap number 51, and he's going to try to pull away from David Washington and the field as the laps wind on. He's already starting to put a little bit of a gap between him and David Washington, and they've got almost a full second back to Brandon Bowie, who is currently in that 3rd position, still trying to fend off Jeff Ward. This top 5 has gotten really strung out at this point of the race. There's really not much going on through much of the top 15. You got to go all the way back. It looks to be about the 14th, 15th position. You got Mike Kelly and Nick Silver going at it. Trevor Rapallo is starting to fight his way back towards the front as he moves up into that 16th position, and these guys are fighting all over the place back here. This is a little bit of a hornet's nest going on back here from about 15th on to maybe about 20th or so.
Yeah, and now look at the that is the 52 of Sean Casto. Where did he come from? He's done an amazing job. Okay, they're still running 16, so he's not as far up as I initially thought he was. I thought he was breaking the top 10, but nonetheless, a very good run for that 52 O'Reilly Auto Parts Chevrolet as he comes through 3 and 4 right now. We'll jump on board for a lap with the 52 here, and you can see in front of him that battle you were talking about, Brian. You see the 9 of Rapallo, and you see the 2 of Kelly. He keeps looking to the inside of Silver there, and oh, hello, Stefan Marinak, the Flash Camry. That brand new 2017 Camry goes right by the O'Reilly Auto Parts Chevrolet, and for Sean Casto here, he seems to be content where he's riding right now, not putting up too much of a fight, but there is a fight brewing, and we can see it out the front windshield of this 52. It's that 36, the 2, and the 9. It is a battle royale for those guys.
Yeah, absolutely. These guys are going at it right now. This is absolutely insane. Jose Gonzalez fighting with the number 3 of Greg Evans. These guys are fighting very hard back here around that 20th position right now, having a heck of a battle. Not a whole lot has changed up inside the top 10, so we're going to stay focused on this battle. Galen Gidman trying to hold these guys off as well. He's up on the outside line. We have one slow up against the wall. That's the 7 of Nelson Rivera. He goes to the bottom of the racetrack. Not sure what happened. We'll have to try to get a replay of that here in just a moment. It looks like he got a little sideways coming off turn 2. He was following that 52 machine of Sean Castro. They both got a little sideways, and Nelson Rivera got pinned up against the outside wall and then took it to the apron to get out of harm's way and to not collect anybody else. But that could have been a very big moment for all of those drivers. Rivera is now on pit road and getting service done to that car. So unfortunate end to his night, or at least a slowdown to his night. It's going to take him at least a lap down, maybe a couple more, but just one of those deals where he was just following Sean Castro off the corner. He got a little sideways and he just wasn't able to hang on to it. And at this point, I do want to welcome back James Pike. He was having some microphone issues, and we had to change things up for a little while, but we're going to get you back in the booth now, James. It's nice to have you back, and you haven't missed a whole lot. There's been a little bit of action in the middle of the pack, but up front, it's been all the same. Aegis Motorsports 1-2.
Jones with the lead. Washington as it stands. Bowie, Comstock, and Ward, your top 5. Ward making a nice charge through the field. And yeah, this little hornet's nest in the back looks like it's the fun place to watch right now. Going from about Carl Shed-ish back to, or up rather, to Kyle Taraska. Or back, I suppose. I don't know my forwards and backwards, evidently, at the moment. But lots of guys racing side by side there, trying to get all sorts of spots. Get up the field, get up through the field as fast as they possibly can.
Yeah, absolutely. And David Comstock is slowly but surely starting to march his way forward. We have a caution here on the racetrack. I was getting ready to say he'd moved all the way up to 4th, but we are under caution here once again for the 3rd time tonight. Not sure exactly what happened. We'll get caught up on that in just a moment. But our longest green flag of the night, and I'm hearing the number 55 machine of Michael W. Waters. He had some issues, it looks like, down the back straightaway. He was racing with that number 3 machine and just got a little sideways. They made contact, and he got stopped up against the outside wall. So unfortunate for him, but that's what brings out our 3rd caution of the evening.
So 3 yellows now, and this is going to bring everybody back together And we get this yellow just after the halfway point, too. Just about, or just before, rather. So we're closing in on that. Probably we'll hit that during this caution. So we'll see how people decide to run this, but this would be an interesting spot to split your pit strategy up, given what we have left. If you decide to do that, Brian, though, I still think, especially after what we saw on that first restart, it will be 4 tires for everybody, because it's so hard to make anything less than that work well.
Oh, absolutely. And this was also almost a 30-lap green flag run. I think it's going to go in the books as like about a 26-lap green flag run. So absolutely, we're going to see all these drivers come down and get 4 tires and fuel. And like you mentioned, this is going to put them in a spot because they cannot make it to the end on fuel. They're not going to be able to go 65 laps on a tank of gas. So absolutely, they have to come back to pit road at least one more time. If this thing stays green, when do you make that last pit stop? That's going to be a very interesting call. We're going to have to wait and see what happens. But right now, we're going to focus on pit stops. Dylan Jones, your race leader, he brings them to pit road. He's got David Washington, then Brandon Bowie, David Comstock, and Jeff Ford all behind them. I don't expect you'll see anything crazy. 4 tires and fuel is going to be the call for all of these drivers. And Dylan Jones is going to be one of the first ones to slide into his box. David Washington right behind him. Looks like everybody gets in cleanly. Bowie almost slid through his box once again. It looks like DeBarro did slide through. Anthony DeBarro is going to have to back up, so he's going to have to take a little bit more time on pit road. We're going to see where he falls from that mistake. And it looks like David Comstock got a great pit stop right there. He's going to come out. It looks like he might come out in second. You have to wait and see what happens there, but David Washington wins the race off pit road, and then you've got the Brandon Bowie machine, and then it looks like David Comstock. That's going to be your top 3. Incredible race off pit road for those drivers.
Really, really good stout from Comstock in order to get up towards the front of the field a little bit. And, you know, I think we talk about this all the time, that the biggest key, absolute biggest key on these pit stops is to make sure that you don't slide through your box, because that will absolutely screw you, especially on a yellow flag pit stop. DeBarro currently scored in 10th, but when that cycles around, I imagine he's going to drop quite a few spots. That sort of mistake is about as costly as they come.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we approach the halfway point of tonight's race, we're going to take a moment to look at our iRacing Midway Race Break, brought to you by iRacing, the world's premier online racing game with professionally organized racing from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, and we also now have dirt in the world of Outlaws. So a lot of exciting things going on here in iRacing. And as we get back to this now, the pit stops have cycled through, James, and David Washington is going to be that race leader right now. You're going to have Brandon Bowie in the 2nd position, followed by David Comstock in 3rd. Jeff Ward is 4th. Corbin Hemstreet is 5th. Dylan Jones had a really slow stop. He falls all the way back to 6th. Then you have Dwayne Vincent in 7th. Carl Shedd is 8th. Daniel Eberhardt started P41 on the night. He's up to 9th, and running out the top 10, Joseph Tice.
Kyle Tarasca currently runs in the 11th position. Trevor Rapallo is in 12th. Mike Kelly can be found in the 13th spot. 14th is where DeBarro is being scored after his pit stop mishap. So back a few spots for the 96. The Flash Toyota of Stefan Marinac currently sits in the 15th position. 16th belongs to the number 52 of Sean Casso. Jose Gonzalez in the number 26 is 17th. Nick Silver in that Hot Wheels 36 Ford Fusion is 18th. Kalen Gidman is 19th. And CJ LeVere is the last car in the top 20.
21st right now goes to Doug Roth, and you have A.J. Browning in 22nd, Scott Stenzel 23rd, Seth Foudy is 24th, Sean Boundy is 25th, Michael Priester sits 26th right now, Scott Walter is 27th, Greg Evans is 28th, Bruce Ackerman had some issues early on, he's rebounding a little bit, he's up to 29th, and Christopher Hurlow was one of our early cautions, he's in 30th.
Back to 31st now as Hurlow slides and scoring refreshes during the yellows. Then it's Scott Simley, Joe Hudson, Nelson Rivera, Jeffrey Ford, Keith Medeiros, Doug Wyatt, Michael Waters, Eric Arnold, Stephanie Lessentine, Ross Cato, Kevin Linden, and Braden Whitaker round out your field. And that has been your iRacing Midway Race Break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, you can visit iRacing.com to sign up today. When you register for a new iRacing membership, you get 13 cars and 14 tracks. They all come included with a first-time subscription as we get ready to get the restart here on lap 64. It'll be when they cross the stripe and go green once again. Washington and Bowie pacing the field. similar kind of story that it's been all night, Brian. These two have been controlling the field for a good chunk of this race.
Yeah, absolutely. And as the pace car ducks to pit road, just going to remind you, there actually is a couple more free tracks and cars with you. You got a couple of dirt cars and dirt tracks that come with the game now, so it's 15 cars and 15 tracks. And green flag is back out here. David Washington, he's already down and away and into turn 1. He got clear of Brandon Bowie and David Comstock, and he's trying to sail away as they come off turn 2. Bowie, however, has got better things going on. And back to Dylan Jones, a very scary moment off turn 2. He's up to the outside of Dwayne Vincent now, and we have another caution here at Texas.
Yellow flag somewhere. I imagine Douglas Wyatt is what I'm hearing. I imagine that was somewhere around in turn 2. I saw a lot of cars 2 and 3 wide on corner exit. 9 times out of 10 when we come to Texas, Brian, that ends up being a recipe for disaster. So we'll get the replay up for you here and show you what exactly happened to Wyatt's machine.
Yeah, and he actually got very lucky. A little bit of contact coming off the corner. I believe that was Sean Castro to his outside. Actually, that was number 51 machine. My apologies, of Keith Medeiros. He got sideways, but he did an incredible job not slamming into the inside wall. He locked it down and just came to a stop in the middle of the racetrack. No harm, no foul. He's going to come back in, get 4 fresh tires, and he'll be able to get back out there and run it hard and try to get his positions back. So a very lucky call for Douglas Wyatt right there. Could have been disastrous, as you mentioned, but he got away with one.
Lucky. That, I think, is your word of the moment right there for Douglas Wyatt. How often does that happen, that you spin out there at Texas and don't get hit? That's a bit of a rarity, so I suppose he'll count his blessings and go get tires, like you said, and move on. We should be able to rebound here, because I imagine there are going to be a few more cars that end up getting in trouble before we're done. With the way they've been racing on restarts, I imagine something is going to happen, and maybe a few more yellows will come out before we hit the end of this race.
Yeah, absolutely. This is going to be one of those deals where it might be a cautions breed cautions moment. These guys are getting bunched up. We're getting to the second half of this race, and these guys are going to start getting antsy. And the closer you get to the end of the race, the more aggressive they're going to be, and the harder they're going to drive. So this is going to be very interesting indeed. But it's just one of those deals where you have to race hard, but you also have to be mindful of the people around you. You don't want to get too aggressive and cause accidents. You want to try to be as clean as possible.
Try, but of course there's always a point that if in the words of Ayrton Senna, if you don't go for a gap that exists, then you are no longer a racing driver. And to some level you do have to step on it and be aggressive and that sort of stuff, but all to be sorted out here within the next 50 plus laps that we have left in Texas. Take a moment now to remind you that tonight's broadcast of the RealSimRacing.com Full Throttle Cup Series presented by Gary Mercer Trucking is brought to you by Hippie's Paint Shop. Hippie's Paint Shop has over 5 years of experience providing top quality custom paint schemes for all iRacing vehicles at a low price. Because after all, at Hippie's Paint Shop, the cost isn't high, just the painter. So, here working lap 67 under the yellow flag, Washington still your leader. I guess you're not going to see all that much craziness, you would think, in terms of pit strategy here. Maybe some guys try and coast and save a little bit of fuel, but I think you're still going to have to come down at least once more in order to make it happen. It's just a matter of how much closer to the end does this yellow put you, and do you get 2 or 3 extra laps under green because we're running here and we're getting a few extra yellow flag laps as well. I wonder, though, for someone, that's going to make a difference in some sort of pit strategy. And I wonder, do you think anybody's crazy enough to try and short pit, maybe say lap, 80, 90, try and split these last 50 and make it happen? You think someone might try that in the back of the field to try and make something happen, Brian?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's something you'll see these guys try. It really just depends on how many more cautions fall between now and then, and how spread out they get. I think if there's one driver that could make that move, I think it'd be your biggest mover on the race so far, and that's Daniel Eberhardt. He did not run the full season so far, so he's basically at this point just in a position to try to go out here and win as many races as he can. And why not take that chance and go for it and take that risk in hopes that it works out for you? I think he'd be one you could definitely look for. And then I look back through the pack a little bit. Anthony DeBarro, now that he's in the situation he's in, having that bad stop on pit road, might be another one of those drivers that you could see possibly just try to take that chance and short pit just a little bit. He's really got nothing to lose as well, because this is his first race back in the 2017 campaign. So go out there and give it your all and see what happens. I think those are two drivers that have the least amount to lose at this stage.
I think you're right in that those two drivers definitely don't have all that much to lose. I wonder, though, since Eberhardt's run his way up to the front of the field, if he might not try and go chase down everybody just on his pace alone. I think it's certainly possible with the amount of laps we have left and the yellows that I think are forthcoming. But DeBarro represents a very interesting case where that might actually just happen. He's currently in the 15th position. So not necessarily close enough to really make anything happen on pace unless he can bring that car back up towards the front of the field. So if he ends up stuck there, I wouldn't be surprised if he tried something like that. If you're that far back, what do you have to lose, right? But restart here, lap 69. Washington away, off, clear by about a car length, and then you'll have Bowie slide in right behind him. Comstock and Ward, though, side by side in the corner, and not going to give either one of them an inch. Comstock, though, going to be able to drive it off the bottom of the corner and will slide up and clear Jeff Ward. So Comstock up to the third spot. Ward, though, comes back down on the inside, maybe to block Corbin Hemstreet more than anything else as the yellow flag comes out again, Brian. What a surprise, right?
And it's the number 33 machine off turn 2 for the second time in a row. Douglas Wyatt, he got loose in the middle of the corner, tried to save it, was not able to, but once again does a pretty good job at not getting hit by anybody and not hitting anything. Just slides to a rest on the back straightaway, and then looks like Joe Hudson was trying to get slowed up coming off the corner. He got sideways as well, but another one of those drivers that did not get any damage. So just a very interesting couple of restarts right there for these drivers. Not really sure what happened.
At this point, we'll take a break here and go off to commercial and let you all take your bathroom break that you need while these drivers run under caution. You are watching the RealSimRacing.com Full Throttle Cup Series presented by Gary Mercer Trucking on LSRTV, the voice of sim racing.
There are 3 different paths if you want to call yourself a world champion of sim racing. NASCAR, open wheels, or endurance racing. But no matter which one you take, you can guarantee that the journey will always be tough, which few will ever complete. The iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series, the premier road racing series in sim racing, started with a new car taking center stage. Then, it was Martin Kroenke resisting any challenge thrown at him to break the 5-year stranglehold of Gregor Hutu as being world champion. These drivers and teams are not just competing for pride, they're competing for money. And with over $20,000 in prizes for each of the series up for grabs, drivers really do put it all on the line.
The NASCAR Beginner Series powered by iRacing is the premier NASCAR eSports series featuring the cars and tracks from the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. The 2016 campaign saw a return to the top of the mountain by Ray Alfalla as a 3-time Oval World Champion. The march to that championship was not easy, though, despite the fact that Ray Alfalla took home the most points in series history. It just also happened to be the tightest championship fight we had ever seen. These guys are set for the 2017 campaign.
The Blancpain GT Series hosts the top GT3 endurance teams in sim racing, with groups of 3 or more drivers sharing the wheel. This is a championship you can't win alone, and you need the same determination, passion, and drive from your teammates to be successful. They often say that it takes just one mistake to lose a championship, and in team racing, it may not be your mistake that costs you the win. Last season, VRS Coanda Simsport won the championship by a single point. This year, who will step up to the plate?
These are the iRacing Esport World Championships, the pinnacle of sim racing competition. Catch it all season long with live coverage on iracing.com/live.
Welcome back to LSRTV's coverage of the Gary Mercer Trucking Full Throttle Cup Series on YouTube and iRacing Live here from the Texas Motor Speedway. 73 laps complete when they cross the stripe and get the restart. David Washington, your leader. Then Brandon Bowie, David Comstock, Jeff Ward, Corbin Hemstreet, and Dylan Jones, your top 6. Stands Dwayne Vincent, Daniel Everhart, Kyle Taraska, Carl Shedd to round out the top 10. Also of note, Brian Macklin. Brandon Bowie was on the apron throughout the entirety of that caution. You don't think he might be saving fuel a little bit?
Well, at this point, they might be getting to that spot where they could make it to the end on fuel. A fuel window of green flag laps is about 55, and they're at that stage where they could be able to go. Green flag back out, though. David Washington got a great launch again. He jumps way out to about a 2-car length advantage over Bowie, and Bowie's going to be able to slide in second. Comstock did not get a good restart, and that allows Bowie to hang on to that second position. Comstock, however, wants to try to take that away from him as they come off turn 2. He sets his sights on that, and they're single file through the front 4, but they are double file from about 6th on back. As you see, it looks like Dylan Jones was able to clear those guys behind him. Now Corbin Hemstreet fights his way to the bottom, trying to get ahead of these guys off turn 2. He slides up the track just a little bit into Everhart, and now they are still side by side heading to 1.
Hemstreet and Everhart there racing for the 6th position, and Dwayne Vincent is right there trying to make it happen. Oh, Hemstreet tried to get into the gas a little bit too early and almost made it happen, and I think Everhart got the wall coming out of turn 2. Bounced wildly almost into the second lane, and everybody had to make quick decisive action to get around that 90 machine, but everybody managed to keep it straight enough, so no yellow, but it did cost Everhart 2 spots as Dwayne Vincent and Kyle Taraska were able to get around him for 7th and 8th. So Everhart back to 9th, going to have to rebound and race his way back up to the front of the field.
Back up front, we have a battle for the 3rd position. Jeff Ward's going to take that position away from David Comstock. Comstock is going to try to fight back on the outside line, but now he's going to have to deal with the 11 of Dylan Jones. He goes wide in 3 and 4. Looks like he's going to give up both of those positions. He tries to fight back as they come off the corner. He's going to look to the outside of Dylan Jones, but I don't know if he's going to have the momentum he needs. He goes to the outside as they head off into turn 1, trying to make that second groove work. But as they head off into turn 1, he just didn't have the grip that he needed. He falls back to the 4th position, and Dylan Jones gets sideways off turn 2. That's going to allow Comstock to get clear of him, but as soon as that happened, he gets challenged by Corbin Hemstreet as they go off into turn 3. He had a moment to catch his breath, and then Hemstreet came on the charge.
That was a lot that just happened in that lap. Now, Dylan Jones just about lost it entirely coming out of turn 2. David Comstock ran it high, wide, and handsome in 3 and 4 twice in the span of 2 laps, and now is able to get past Corbin Hemstreet. And after all of that, he's going to be up to 4th as long as he hangs on to the spot by the time they get back to the stripe. So all of that for not really much of anything there, but looks like we've got everything sorted for the most part. Washington still in front, though, so everybody's still chasing that 98 machine. Bowie is back out in 2nd to the tune of about half a second behind Washington, then maybe another 2 or 3 car lengths to Jeff Ward, who is having his best run in the Full Throttle Cup Series so far this year, currently in the 3rd spot. He was quick all throughout the Icebreaker Series, nearly won that title, if not for a late pit road mishap in the season finale in Miami. So I can't say I'm totally surprised to see him up here. It's just, I think, been a matter of him getting used to the Cup cars and getting used to the full-time drivers in this league. But over the first few races, he's shown that he's had the pace to get up to the front and consistently run top 5, top 10 every week.
Yeah, well, Jeff Ward's a longtime veteran of this league, and he ran this series full time a couple of years ago. Last year, he decided to take some time off, and I think he might have ran a couple of races last year, but he didn't run very many. And so, just trying to get his feelings back in this Cup car again. And now we have this new package with the new suspension and the aero package, and just a lot to be thrown in there. But like you said, he's having a great night here tonight, sitting in that third position. He's trying to chase down Brandon Bowie, but we have a little bit of a battle going on behind that. That's David Comstock and Corbin Hemstreet once again. These guys have been going at it for several laps now, and they are side by side battling for that fifth position. Hemstreet's on the bottom, Comstock is up top. Comstock is trying to make that second groove work, and it looks like he gets a decent run through the middle of the corner off. It's just corner entry he loses a lot of time, but he's able to make that outside line work for the time being. He fights back on the outside, and still side by side as they head off into turn one, trying to pinch Hemstreet down. It looks like Hemstreet's going to have the advantage this time as they come off turn two, and he will. Hemstreet moves into that fourth position, slots Comstock back to fifth.
Hemstreet into fourth, but goodness, did that give a gap up to Jeff Ward. About half a second now that Hemstreet rides behind that 89 machine, and I almost think that Ward might be coming as we got a caution and we got cars wrecking out of turn four. Looked like there was a little bit of contact made between some of the back markers. I see Sean Castro running through the grass. A lot of other drivers involved as well. We'll take the replay here in just a moment and show you what exactly happened, Brian. But big mess coming off of turn four.
Yeah, that started with DeBarro and Carl Shedd. It looks like DeBarro was trying to get underneath Kyle Tarasca. He wasn't able to do it. He checked up just a little bit. Carl Shedd ran into the back of him, kicked both those drivers sideways, and then that led to a chain reaction coming off the corner as Doug Roth in the number 43 machine got collected, as well as the number 3 of Greg Evans. Looks like Sean Boundy in the 34 got a little bit of contact, and a couple more drivers slotted through the grass trying to avoid it, but a pretty big wreck off turn 4 right there. Collects a couple of our front runners, one being Anthony DeBarro. That was one of the fastest cars on the racetrack, and now he's going to have a little bit of damage to try to get worked on. Doesn't look like his car is too bad off. It's all left side damage, so he might be okay, but definitely going to have to take some time on pit road. Meanwhile, back on pit road is the race leaders. I think this might be one of their final trips down to pit road as David Washington leads them down with Bowie, Jeff Ward, and then Corbin Hemstreet behind them.
Washington and company all coming down pit road, and if you need any sort of testament as to why it's so important to not slide through your box, I have to believe that Anthony DeBarro would not have been in the position that he was on track had he not made that error on the last round of pit stop. So that definitely kind of screws everything up. But Washington will clear everybody off pit road, and then I believe Bowie is the second car that comes off. Sean Casto lap down at the moment, I think. So, or not. Never mind. Casto with pit strategy, I'm hearing. So, Casto gets involved in the wreck and then takes 2 tires. Thought he might have had a little bit of damage from the incident, but car is clean enough to go forward, and now all of a sudden finds himself at the front of the field. Caught me by surprise, which I have to believe is a pretty good indicator that it caught just about everybody else by surprise as well.
Yeah, absolutely. He's going to come out. It looks to be second behind David Washington. He's going to be ahead of a couple of other drivers that have been up front for most of the night, being Brandon Bowie, and then we've also got Dwayne Vincent up there. And how about Dwayne Vincent? He's had a very quiet night. I don't know if we've even called his name yet tonight, but as we get to the end of this race, it looks like he's going to be up inside the top 5. That number 13 machine, this wily veteran, he's really good at just sneaking his way up there, and just like I said, he's up to 4th here in the last part of this race. He is just really starting to make his way up there. Very impressed by him. And then how about Daniel Eberhardt? Started 41st. It's his first race back in the 2017 season, and he's up to 5th. And I think this is a sign he's going to be one to fight with before this thing is over. We're inside the last 50 laps of this race right now, and Daniel Eberhardt definitely starting to make his voice heard. He's moving closer and closer to the front with every lap that passes.
40 laps to go as they work this yellow flag lap, and it's taken Eberhardt 85 laps to come up nearly 40 positions. It started 41st on the field, so if you don't believe that that 90 car is quick, hasn't really had the chance to make it happen, but here we are, and getting down to crunch time, and Eberhardt's here, and he's coming through and bringing his friend Dwayne Vincent with him, or I suppose at this point it's Vincent bringing along Eberhardt, but you know, Dwayne loves Texas. We know that. He's been so good here. Won here in the fall last year. Been really, really solid at this place. So I'm I'm not surprised to see that Parker Store 13 car up here. I think it was just a matter of letting the experienced drivers here wait for a bit and just pick their moments to start picking their way up in the field. But it looks like we're beginning to see a little bit of that now. And no surprise that the names that you see in the top 5, the Washingtons, the Vincents, the Eberhards, Comstocks, and Bowies and company, are all names that we've seen run up at the front of the field before.
And I'm not sure what's going on right now, but the lights are off on the iRacing Ford First Mustang, and our race leader is sitting up on the outside line as they get ready to come back to this restart. I'm not really sure. Maybe this is a scoring error. Maybe the league has added lane choice. I didn't think that was a rule here in RSR, but perhaps it is, and I'm just not really aware of it. But looks like David Washington is up on the outside line as they get ready to come back to this restart. Sean Casto is going to be in that second position, and now Washington, I guess Washington was just having a little bit of fun as he moves to the bottom, just trying to create a little bit of drama under caution here for us. He moves to the bottom of the racetrack. Sean Casto, we saw other drivers earlier in the race try to do this two-tire strategy. Now we're going to see how it works out for Casto. They get ready to come to the green here, James. It's going to be exciting.
Will be interesting to watch and see what happens. Pace car comes off. Here comes Washington. Gets away really well again. It's going to be a car length and a half, maybe 2 before they get to the start-finish line. Meanwhile, Casto, I think, spun the tires a little bit. Eberhard's going to drop down and get to 3rd just like that. Jeff Ward coming with him. Casto beginning to look like a sitting duck now. Cars all behind him trying to make something happen. He might have gotten the wall coming out of turn 2 just a little bit. Not too much, though, but everybody coming underneath him now. Ward already got past him. Comstock now looking underneath the 52. Jones now the next car in line. And Vincent goes to the bottom, both to block him street and make it happen. The pit strategy not paying off for the 52 of Sean Casto.
Yeah, it's not paying off for him, and it also really hurt Dwayne Vincent. He was in 4th when they took the green flag a lap and a half ago, and he falls all the way back to the 8th position in just that short period of time. He got trapped behind Casto and just could not go anywhere. He's able to get by him now, so he's going to move into the 7th position, but lost a ton of track position due to that pit call by Sean Casto. He's going to have to work hard to get it back. He moves into that 7th position now, and he's trying to chase him back down. But how about Dylan Jones? Had his moment under green about 25 laps ago. He went from running up inside the top 5 all the way outside of the top 10. Now, as we get closer to the end of this thing, he's worked his way back up to the 6th position. He had one of the fastest cars earlier on in this race, and if not for losing all that track position on pit road, he'd probably still be leading this thing. He got up there, challenged David Washington, and drove away from him earlier on in this race. So you got to believe he's having a very frustrating night inside that car, just knowing what could have been if he didn't lose all that track position.
Maybe, but there's also time to make it up. Still have 35 laps to go, so not necessarily a done deal yet on that 11, but I am looking at the 90 of Daniel Eberhardt, who snuck behind all that madness when Casto couldn't get going well to 3rd, and now all of a sudden is right on the rear deck lid of the 44. Might have gotten into him as they come across the start finish line, but here comes Daniel Eberhardt, makes that pass very quick, makes it happen very easily, and all of a sudden the man who started 41st when they dropped the green flag this evening is up to 2nd, and now hunting down the other Ford at the front of the field in David Washington.
Oh, and it's no surprise. This is another one of those Aegis Motorsports drivers. He's running a limited schedule. This is his first race on the season, but look at him sitting up there in that 2nd position, and he's chasing down David Washington in the closing stages of the race. This is one of the drivers that was in the Final 4 at Homestead just last year, battling for that championship. Came up just a little bit short, but he's back for blood now as he's finally worked his way all the way to the front of this field. He's got one more position to go to get to where he wants to be, and he is our biggest mover on the race, but how about that? I mean, that's 41st up to 2nd. That is an incredible drive for the driver of this number 90 machine to make it all the way up through the field the way he did and not really hit anything. He had a moment off the back straightaway maybe 15 laps ago where he might have scraped the wall, but other than that, he's had a flawless night working his way through the field.
If you want a testament to speed, how about that? Up 39 spots since the start of the green. Impressive, to say the least, from the number 90 machine. But you're right. You know, he was in the championship 4, has experience here. And I think naturally he's talented, too. He's been able to figure out this new package very, very quickly. And is, at the moment, starting to pull away just a little bit from Brandon Bowie. It's not all that much, but have seen a car length gap appear between the 90 and the 44 within this last lap and a half or so. So I think now that Eberhardt's clear, we should start to see him try and run down David Washington in the number 98 machine. And that could be about what we have to pay attention to here as the laps wind down and we get closer to the checkered flag. Looking in the meantime, though, for side-by-side battles, I have to go back to another driver who we haven't talked about all that much, but has also had a very good night. 27th currently is now going to be scored 8th once they come across the line because he just passed Corbin Hemstreet. The 88 of Kyle Taraska had a bit of an adventurous evening, been involved in some of the incidents tonight. Hasn't totally screwed up the car, has a little bit of front-end damage, though, but I think we ought to give a call to the 88 because it's not easy coming up through the field here in Texas, and he has done a really, really good job of it, better than anybody else in this field so far, save for Eberhardt himself.
Yeah, absolutely. And just look at David Washington out in front right now over Daniel Eberhardt. Got about a 4-car length advantage and just hanging on. But the one thing we saw him do earlier in the run was the longer the run got, the more his tires fell off. It's going to be interesting to see if he was able to manage his tires just a little bit better on this run. He's still pulling away at this point. He got up about another 10th over Daniel Eberhardt, so trying to get away from these guys now, but he's still got about 28 laps to go, so he's got to manage those tires for a little bit longer if he wants to hang on, especially if this thing ends up staying green, which it very well could. We've got very spread out throughout most of this field, not a whole lot of side-by-side racing going on throughout any of the field at this point. Everybody's just kind of logging laps, trying to get closer to the end of this thing to try to get the finish that they want. But I'm looking back now also at Anthony DeBarro. He's not having the night he wanted after having that incident. Back to the 21st position after getting caught up with that incident with Carl Shed. He's trying to rebound, but just not having the luck that he was hoping to have here tonight. He's battling underneath. I believe that's Austin Coop trying to take the 20th position. I'm sorry, that's AJ Browning trying to take that position away as well.
People still fighting here, and looks like maybe Eberhardt might be coming back to Bowie just a little bit. He had increased the gap, but that gap has very quickly come back, so might see something happen here within the next few laps between the 90 and the 44, and behind them, I just don't feel like anybody's moved all that much. Everybody kind of just keeping everything spaced out by about a car length, but they're all nose to tail for the most part. Right there, you've got Bowie, Ward, Jones, Comstock, a little bit of a gap to Vincent, but no one's really been able to pass anybody. I can't tell if that's just everybody settling in or everybody going as hard as they can, knowing we're getting down to this as we work lap 100 at the moment, knowing that we're running out of time to make things happen, and everybody's cars just being that even in setup and running about as well as everybody else's that's around them up here at the front of the field.
And as you say that, we have another caution here on the racetrack, so these guys are going to get bunched up one more time. Looks like there's a little bit of trouble on the back straightaway. I'm trying to figure out exactly who that is right now. It's Joseph Tice in the number 5 machine around on the back straightaway with a blown motor, so heavy contact for the number 5 machine, and it was coming off turn 2. He got loose, and then he got help from Mike Kelly, and he slammed hard into the inside wall, and it was enough contact to where it really messed up that car. And definitely brought an end to his night. Joseph Tice not having the run he was looking. He was running 15th when that happened, and now unfortunately he's going to be taking this car behind the wall. So back under caution here at Texas, and James, I imagine for at least one more time we're going to see these guys come down and get 4 fresh tires and fuel
for what should be the last pit stop. So you don't want to screw it up. I would imagine that would go without saying, but you never know sometimes. Funny things can happen if you don't cross the T's, dot the I's, and make sure that you do your part, especially as spotter, crew chief, what have you here. So we'll have to watch and see. Should be 4 tires and fuel once again for everybody up at the front of the field. Washington to lead them. Eberhardt immediately into his box as one of the first stalls on pit road, and they all fan in, fan out, and we'll see who comes out front.
Yeah, Eberhardt was the first one into his box because he had one of the first pit box coming on the pit road. He's already got his 4 tires and he's down and away. David Washington just slid into his box as your race leader, and it looks like Bowie might have slid through just a little bit. He's been pushing that envelope all night long. It's very impressive that he has not had any issues with that as of yet, and we're waiting to see what happens. Looks like Washington's not going to get out of his box as quickly as he wanted to, and Eberhardt's going to win the battle off pit road, followed by Washington, then Jeff Ward. Then it looks like Comstock might have come out in 4th, followed by a very close battle between Dylan Jones and Brandon Bowie. Not exactly sure who got that. It looks like Jones is going to win that battle off pit road, but a very big shakeup at the front as now Daniel Eberhardt is going to make his way to the lead for the first time here tonight, and he couldn't have picked a better time to do it. We're inside the last 25 laps of this race.
41st to first. Not hard to say that's impressive no matter how you slice it. Now the run up to the front of the field is complete. The 90 machine, just a matter of how he manages to hang on to it. That's the question. Ward was able to hang on to third. Jones lost a spot to Comstock, but I think Brandon Bowie's the big loser here. Back to, I believe, should be about 5th or 6th, I think. 6, yes, as they come across and reset scoring. It is 6. So 4 spots on that round of pit stops, losing positions and losing track position right when you don't want to. We talked a little bit at the front of this about Bowie not quite finding the speed for a full race and being able to be there at the end like he has at the beginning. Wonder if this might end up being another case like that, Brian. He'll have to hustle here right off the restart if he wants a shot to win this thing, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Being in 6th and being on the outside line on the restart, that's going to prove to be a challenge for our pole sitter, but he's got a fast enough car where he can still try to rebound and get something out of this thing. I don't know if he's going to be able to get up there and challenge these leaders at the front. However, with that being said, you're going to have a couple of very aggressive drivers at the front that are going to be racing, and they just so happen to be teammates, and that's Daniel Eberhardt and David Washington. Both of these drivers would like to get a win. Of course, David Washington, he's already got a couple of wins on the season. He's got 2 so far in the first 5 races of this season, so a very impressive start to his season. He'd like to get win number 3, but for Daniel Eberhardt, his first race back, what better way to cap it off than with a victory? I mean, that's exactly what he's looking for at this point, and to have the drive he's come through the field, or the way he has, it's almost a storybook ending if he can come away with a victory here tonight.
We'll watch, we'll see. We'll keep our eyes peeled. But at the moment, I'm going to take a moment to remind you that coverage of the RealSimRacing.com Full Throttle Cup Series, presented by Gary Mercer Trucking, is brought to you by Joel Real Timing, the official timing software of LSRTV. And you can get that today at joel-real-timing.com. Restart will come with 20 laps to go. Eberhardt, your leader, Washington second, then Jeff Ward, David Comstock, Dylan Jones, Brandon Bowie, Dwayne Vincent, Corbin Hemstreet, Kyle Traska, and Trevor Rapallo, your top 10 drivers. 20 laps to go. What do you think? Eberhardt's going to get clean air for the first time all race. What kind of difference do you think that's going to make for that number 90 car? And could it make too much of a difference for him? Might that clean air be a little bit different enough than what he's used to make that car a little bit off on the handling? Or do you have enough faith in Eberhardt that he'll stay up there and be fighting for the win no matter what?
I think Eberhardt's going to put on a heck of a show here, and his teammate David Washington's going to be right there with him, making that show even better. Pace car ducks to the safety of pit road, and we're under green once again. Eberhardt's already down and away. Washington got a decent restart. He's going to be able to slide into second. We already are back under caution, though. A wreck in the back of the pack, and that is the number 24, Scott Stenzel, around on the front stretch. Looks like he might have gotten a little bit of help from behind. There was a little bit of a stack up in front of him, and he got hit from behind by the, I believe that was number 26 machine of Jose Gonzalez, ran into the back of him. You see the replay on your screen right now, just a chain reaction wreck that unfortunately has ended the night for Scott Stenzel. His car is blown up, and you see him taking it behind the wall. Unfortunately, his night is over, but a pretty small wreck that could have been a lot bigger than it was, James. He got shoved up into the outside wall, and everybody did a really good job working their way around him without actually making contact with him and making that wreck bigger.
Shades of the wreck during the restart of the Fall Charlotte race last year in the Cup Series, just a little bit, though a lot less damage this time around. We didn't collect 10 cars as that wreck had, but I think biggest thing that does is that just knocks off a few more laps for the drivers that are, 5th, 6th, 7th. Bowie, I feel like, is the main one that really pays for this. Won't have as many laps to run his way back up towards the front of the field, and needed them after that poor pit stop on that caution just prior to this. So makes you wonder, are we beginning to get to the point where it's 3, 4, maybe 5 drivers tops that have a shot to win this?
Well, I think at this point, anybody inside the top 5 still has a realistic shot. And I say that because I have a feeling you're going to see these two teammates really racing for the race lead. I think you're going to see them get side by side and get battling pretty hard. And that's going to open the door for just about anybody to try to go up there and challenge those guys. You get those two battling side by side for the race lead. You bring Comstock into the picture. You bring Ward into the picture. You bring Bowie. You bring Dylan Jones. I mean, these are all drivers that are definitely capable of winning a race. And if you get them just a sniff of that race lead, they're going to go up there and they're going to try to take their shot at it. This is definitely an opportunity for all these drivers up in the top 5 or 6 to go up there and try to steal this thing.
As they run to caution to get things sorted out, we're going to go side by side so you don't miss any of the action, but we'll step away and let our voices rest for a little bit. You are watching the LSRTV coverage of the Full Throttle Cup Series, presented by Gary Mercer Trucking on the voice of sim racing.
Get ready, going green. Green, green, green!
Welcome back to coverage of the RealSimRacing.com Full Throttle Cup Series, presented by Gary Mercer Trucking on LSRTV. Going to get ready to get the restart here on lap 110. So 15 laps to go when we get the green flag. Your top 5, Daniel Epperhart, who has come from 41st on the grid, did not take a time when we started this night. Up at the front of the field now, joined by another Ford and David Washington on the outside of the front row in second. Then David Comstock, Jeff Ward, and the number 44, Brandon Bowie in 5th. Brian Macklin, 15 laps to go. Time to get on your high horse and go, I think, if you want a shot to win this thing.
Yeah, absolutely. This is your opportunity. 15 laps to go. You cannot wait, and you cannot waste a second. These guys are going to be racing hard, and we're getting ready to go back green. James, take it away.
Eberhard slowed it a little bit more than usual, and that almost cost him. Looks like Washington was able to read that restart a little bit better. He might just get cleared by Eberhard, but not by all that much, and Washington nearly chopped down across the nose of David Comstock. It was close, it was tight, but they all pack in. So Washington cleared a second, Comstock to third, Ward to fourth, Bowie alongside Dylan Jones for that 5th spot. They go side by side into turn 4, and the yellow flag comes out again.
And that was the number 33 of Douglas Wyatt around on the back straightaway for, I believe, the 3rd time. And just another incident where he got loose off the corner, and just this time he makes heavy contact with the outside wall. I guess 3rd time's the charm. The first 2 times he spun out, he was able to keep that car off the wall, but this time he made heavy contact, and it looks like that's probably going to be the end of his night. As he goes ahead and pulls that car behind the wall. So A rough night for Douglas Wyatt, but unfortunately it's come to an end. And we're back under caution, so we're going to take off a couple more laps. That's going to take away from these guys racing for the lead up front. Daniel Eberhardt is loving this, though, because that's less time he's got to try to battle with his teammate David Washington and the other David Comstock, for the race lead.
These yellow flags are absolutely Daniel Eberhardt's best friend. Less laps you have to deal with racing everybody else, period. Definitely going to be better for you. And I think he wants another crack at that restart, too, because it was not his best. David Washington read the most recent restart very, very well, and I think was almost a bit unlucky not to stay alongside the number 90 as they went through turns 1 and 2. So shall be interesting to see what happens with that. Also of note, Brandon Bowie did restart 5th after gaining a spot on the restart before that, and now I think has lost it because he's currently being scored 6th. So after that bad pit stop, came in 2nd before it. They came down pit road, out 6th, and now basically it's just lost 10 laps. Almost one of those all that work for nothing type situations for the number 44, Brian.
Yeah, absolutely. It's got to be frustrating for him. He had to have been excited on that last when that last caution came out, because he was going to get to restart on the bottom, and he had that. But then, like you said, he lost it on this last restart, so he falls back to 6th, and he's going to start on the outside line once again. Got to be frustrating for him, but that's kind of how it goes. I want to update on one of our front runners from earlier on in the race. Anthony DeBarro was caught up in that wreck with Carl Shedd about 30 laps ago. Not been able to recover from that wreck like he was hoping. He's sitting in the 15th position right now, so definitely not the type of race he was hoping to have on his comeback race, but still has a little bit of time to try to sneak his way up and maybe get a top 10 finish out of this thing. If he can get a couple more lucky breaks, he might be able to pull that off. But he was having such a great run, James, earlier on, and this is a driver that for a couple of years was definitely the favorite to win week in and week out, and he proved to us tonight, even though he's not going to get the finish that he was wanting, he's definitely still got the speed that he showed when he was running full-time in this series.
Still quick, still fast. I feel like that's, and we've seen it with the drivers that come back to this series, that when you have that kind of speed, it doesn't really go away all that quickly. So you can come back to this and still be reasonably quick. And I think that's exactly what DeBarro said tonight. Also, should probably note that CJ Laverde also did not take time, started 40th, currently running 14th, so a big night for him. And the same goes to the 36 of Nick Silver in that Hot Wheels machine, started 38th, currently running 10th at the moment. So big nights for some of these drivers that came up to the back of the field. And if you don't believe that Texas isn't roomy enough to where you can race your way up through the front of the field, I think that's your best proof right there. You've got, I think, 1, 2, 3 guys that started almost 40th or right thereabouts in the top 15 spots. So a lot of really fast cars starting the back, not taking time. But they found their way up through the front of the field, and as we get towards the end of this race, you're seeing that speed now.
Yeah, absolutely, and we're getting ready to get the one to go, I believe, as the drivers start to double up. So we're going to try to do this one more time, and when we go back green, we're going to have about 12 laps of racing left, 11 laps of racing left, I apologize. And hopefully we get to see some green flag racing to finish this thing out, but cautions have indeed been breeding cautions in the last 15 laps or so. Be interesting to see what happens again. Back up front, Daniel Eberhardt is going to take the restart from the lead once again. He's going to have his teammate David Washington to his outside, then David Comstock, Jeff Ward, and Dylan Jones, your top 5, followed by Brandon Bowie, Corbin Hemstreet, Dwayne Vincent, Kyle Taraska, and Nick Silver, your top 10. And James, we got at least one more opportunity to take this restart. What do you expect to see here? I think if David Comstock can get a good restart, he might be able to get up there and try to challenge these two Aegis teammates and maybe try to steal this thing from him. He's been fast all night long. If he can get a good restart, he might be a spoiler in this thing.
He just has to be fast enough to get his nose underneath Washington's when they go into turn 1. He almost did it the last time, which I think said something, because I thought Washington got off really well in comparison to Eberhardt. So Comstock, I suppose, read that really well too. Also need to note here, we're beginning to approach the point where if we get 1 or 2 more cautions, we're not going to see much green flag action. No green, white checker here. But green flag comes out again, and this time Washington really nailed it. He might actually get to the line before Daniel Eberhardt. Did get to the line before Daniel Eberhardt. Car hard in the wall, though. Back in the back of the back. Yellow flag out again. I couldn't tell who it was, but I saw somebody get turned to the outside of the wall in that third leg of the quad oval and just pound the safer barrier there with the nose of that machine. We'll have the replay up for you momentarily, but a lot of cars spun down to the inside and got collected in that as well as that wreck unfolded.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a huge wreck. And to that restart with David Washington, it almost looks like Eberhard didn't get through the gears very good, and that allowed David Washington to just get up to speed and get ahead of him. And then the caution came out, which is going to give him the race lead. And that was a big wreck back there that started with Stefan Marinak, I'm hearing, in the number 25 machine. Just another one of those restart checkups, and it actually looks like they were 3 wide. You see DeBarro made it 3 wide on Galen Gidman and Stefan Marinak, and then a whole bunch of cars just got collected after they got started wrecking. Looks like DeBarro got caught up in that, as well as Carl Shed once again caught up in another wreck, and just a whole bunch of drivers got caught up in that. So it looks like we're going to have at least one more restart, but I think that's going to be the final one, James. If we have another caution like this, I'm pretty sure that's going to be the end of this thing.
Yeah, I hate that's how it works. I personally wish we had green-white checkered runs and the ability to go into overtime, but not to be yet on the sim. So it will be one more attempt that we have at this all realistic chance to get this in under green. If we get one more yellow flag, that should do it. So not that this restart is entirely everything, but it could be, and you have to nail it. If you're feeling the pressure, I think, especially if you're Eberhard, to have had the lead for 2 or 3 restarts, and blown it on the last one, and now you get one shot to redeem yourself. Got to be one of those knees, feet, arms, or heavy type situations, right, Brian?
Yeah, absolutely. He's definitely going to be up on the wheel on this last restart, trying to get everything he can, trying to redeem himself for what happened on the most recent restart. But for David Comstock, you got to worry about him a little bit too, because he had a really bad restart right there. He gave up a ton of time to the 2 leaders and just could not get up to speed. And if it weren't for the fact that we had the caution come out so quickly, I think he was going to be in trouble from behind, because Jeff Ward and Dylan Jones were all over him and were probably going to be able to pounce on him getting to turn 1. But that caution came out and kind of saved him at that point. Got to keep your eyes on him as well, because he can't really afford to have a restart like that again if he wants to try to get up there and get a good finish.
Going to be interesting to see how this plays out. It's all about that restart, though. I'm trying to look through and see if there were any moves in positions before we got the yellow flag. I'm not really seeing anything in the top 10, really. Looks like everybody came away from that clean. So just I think we're all kind of rolling and riding around and waiting here, wondering how this is going to work out exactly. I imagine that the restart will probably come lap 121, 21-ish, somewhere in there, you think?
Yeah, it's going to be right about that. They're going to have about 2 to 3 laps when they go back racing. It's not going to be a lot, but it's going to be enough for things to get kind of crazy at the front. If they can get up to speed and not have a wreck on the restart like they have the last 2 restarts, they definitely still have time to have a little bit of craziness at the front and really race it out for the race lead. I think David Washington now is in the catbird seat. He's had one of the fastest cars all night, and now he's going to have control of the restart for the last time here tonight, and it puts him in a pretty good spot. And got a feel for Dylan Jones, because he had the fastest car at one point, it seemed like, out of everybody, and had some issues on pit road and then had some issues on the racetrack, and he just has not been able to recover the way he would like to. He's sitting back in that 5th position, which is not horrible, but considering how fast his car is and how he was able to get up there and drive away from David Washington, you just got to believe that he is very frustrated with how this thing is going to end up.
Again, another case here. He and Anthony DeBarro. Just more proof that you can't screw it up on pit road, especially coming into your box. It's the number one way to lose positions in the sim. The easiest way to do it, too, more so than anything else on track that you can do as a driver. So, lights are off on the pace car. This should be the last restart, the last chance we get to make things happen. Washington, Eberhard, Comstock, Ward, Jones, Bowie, Imstreet, Vincent, Tarasca, Silver, your top 10, but all eyes will be up at the front of this field. Washington got his best restart from second in this race yet that last time by. Can Daniel Eberhardt repay the favor and either get a lucky break with the yellow or get around the 98 machine to win this race? Pace car will pull off here one last time for the final restart. Green flag in the air. Eberhardt nailed it. Eberhardt came away with a great restart, out ahead of the 98 by about half a car length, but now the inside lane comes back up to him. Here comes Washington on the inside, and Jeff Ward coming underneath Eberhardt, trying to make things happen, but Eberhardt gets a good run off the outside. They're side by side for the race lead with 5 laps to go as they go into turn 3.
Eberhardt trying to make the outside line work as they work through turns 3 and 4. He doesn't have any room on the bottom as Jeff Ward's going to close that gap, and it looks like David Washington got the run he needed to get clear of Eberhardt as they head to turn 1. Now he's going to have to deal with Jeff Ward. Eberhardt, though, is not giving up that battle on the outside line. He's pinching down Jeff Ward through turns 1 and 2, trying to do everything he can to get back up there to try to challenge his teammate, David Washington. However, Washington's able to pull away. Eberhardt is still fighting and trying to hold up Jeff Ward, and there's contact. Eberhardt's up the racetrack. Jeff Ward got into his left front, and that sent Eberhardt backwards. Now Jeff Ward moves to the second, and here comes Comstock trying to challenge for that position.
Comstock going to second, but that side-by-side racing, I think, was everything that David Washington wanted to see, because all of a sudden he's got 0.3 of a second on second place, and I think in all realistic looking at this, just needs to ride out the last 3 laps in order to take home his 3rd victory in as many races. Battle is still on for second, though, because Comstock has not left the rear bumper of the 89 machine of Jeff Ward. All just sitting right there. And Dylan Jones is there, too, ready to make something happen if either one of those 2 drivers find a way to lose the car and mess up here in the final few laps.
Yeah, absolutely. Dylan Jones got a really good run through the middle of the corner. Comstock gets loose off the corner. That's going to allow Dylan Jones to move to his outside. Jones to the outside now, trying to pinch him down as they head to 3. Comstock's going to be able to fight back. He's going to try to hold him off as they come off the corner. He gets clear for the moment, and that's going to force Dylan Jones to the outside now as he's got a challenge from behind. That's the number 44 of Brandon Bowie, our pole sitter, now challenging with just 2 laps to go. David Washington continuing to drive away, but the battle is on around the 5th position as now Eberhardt's trying to take that position away from Dylan Jones.
Eberhardt really paid for getting stuck on the outside there. Currently sits there in the 6th position trying to work everything through and make it all stick, but Jones gets caught on the outside this time as Washington takes the white flag, and now here comes Brandon Bowie underneath David Comstock looking for the 3rd position as they come into turn 1.
Comstock pinches him down through the middle of the corner, trying to make that outside line work. He's going to try to hold Bowie off, but Bowie's got the run down the back. Straight away, Comstock gets in the wall. That's going to allow Bowie to take that position, and now it's on for David Washington as they head through 3 and 4.
Huge race back for that 4th position. Eberhardt underneath Comstock to clear. Tarasca's there, but up at the front of the field, David Washington goes free through 3, and we'll get the 6 shooters in Texas. Washington wins this round of the RealSimRacing.com Full Throttle Cup Series presented by Gary Mercer Trucking. Jeff Ward will get the 2nd spot. Bowie drove it back to 3rd. Eberhardt rebounded a little bit, finished 4th. Kyle Tarasca with a huge drive in that final few laps there off that last restart to get the 5th position.
Yeah, how about that? And a crazy lap and a half for David Comstock. He was sitting 3rd when they took the white flag, but he got a little sideways coming off the corner, got up against the wall off turn 2. That opened the door for Bowie, and then that also ended up opening the door for Eberhardt and Tarasca, and he just was not able to hold those drivers off. So in the last lap, he goes from 3rd to 6th. Still a respectable finish, but just a big slide for him in that last lap, unfortunate. And then Dylan Jones also having the night that he had, he fell back to finish 7th. Then you got Corbin Hemstreet in the 8th position, Mike Kelly is 9th, and Trevor Rapallo rounds out the top 10. Very impressive drive for all those drivers tonight.
We'll take a short break here and then come back and look at the full field rundown and talk to our top 3 finishers at Texas. You are watching coverage of the RealSimRacing.com Full Throttle Cup Series presented by Gary Mercer Trucking on LSRTV, the voice of sim racing.
The NASCAR Beginner Series powered by iRacing is the premier NASCAR esports series featuring the cars and tracks from the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. The 2016 campaign saw a return to the top of the mountain by Ray Alfalla as a 3-time NASCAR World Champion. The march to that championship was not easy, though, despite the fact that Ray Alfalla took home the most points in series history. It just also happened to be the tightest championship fight we had ever seen. These guys are set for the 2017 campaign, and as it has been for the 7 years prior, it is no longer going to be a straight shot to the championship. We are going to see the biggest change in this championship picture in series history, as for the first time ever, there will be a chase for the championship. We're going to go into the Homestead of Miami Speedway at the end of the season with the 4 best oval sim racing drivers in the world absolutely tied in the championship. You just got to beat the other 3 guys out and you will become an official NASCAR champion. You're going to get yourself a NASCAR championship ring and, of course, $10,000. These are the iRacing Esport World Championships, the pinnacle of sim racing competition. You can catch it all season long, live coverage on iRacing.com/live.
Racing, you wanted the best, you got them 4 abreast, often imitated, never duplicated, the greatest show under the world of outlaws.
Welcome back to coverage of the RealSimRacing.com Full Throttle Cup Series presented by Gary Mercer Trucking on LSRTV. We have wrapped up the 6th round of the 2017 season at Texas. David Comstock, who's your winner. At this point, it's time to go through the full field rundown to find out where your favorite driver finished this evening. Washington gets his 3rd win in a row behind the wheel of that 98 Aegis Motorsports Ford Fusion and claims the victory at Texas. Jeff Ward, with his best finish of the season, comes home 2nd. Brandon Bowie bounced around from 2nd to 6th all night long and everywhere in between and comes home 3rd this evening. Daniel Eberhardt drove his way all the way up to the front of the field and then lost it on a late race restart, ended up with 4th. Kyle Taraska with a very solid drive from 27th to 5th when it was all said and done. David Comstock qualified 6th, finished 6th. Easy numbers for him on this evening. Dylan Jones finishes 7th. Corbin Hemstreet 8th. Mike Kelly drives from 25th to 9th. Didn't mention him much during the broadcast, but a big run for him. And Trevor Rapallo finishes in the 10th position this evening.
How about Dwayne Vincent comes home with an 11th place finish, a very quiet night for the driver number 13, but he comes home with a decent finish. CJ Lavera gets 12th. Seth Bowdy will come home 13th. 14th goes to Nick Silver. AJ Browning will come home in the 15th position, and then one of our own, Austin Coop, very quiet night for him. He's going to finish 16th respectively. Carl Shedd will finish 17th. 18th will go to Scott Walter. 19th goes to Christopher Hurlow, and rounding out the top 20, Sean Boundy finishes 20th.
Scott Sibley finished 21st. Last car in the lead lap in 22nd was the 7 Prizos Verizon car of Nelson Rivera. Jose Gonzalez was the first and incidentally only car 1 lap down this evening in 23rd. Sean Casto finished 24th. Joseph Tice 25th. You start looking at these names, everybody ran into trouble and got crashed out of this race early. Galen Gidman finished 26th. Anthony DeBarro qualified so well, got caught up in an incident after a bad pit stop, but eventually finished 27th. Bruce Ackerman had a rough go right from the beginning, nearly got wrecked on the first lap and finished 28th. Stefan Marinak got caught up in a late race wreck and pounded the outside wall and ended up finishing 29th. Michael Priester, your last car in the top 30 in 30th position.
And Doug Roth will finish in the 31st position here tonight, followed by Joe Hudson in 32nd. Douglas Wyatt had a pretty rough night. He comes home in 33rd. Keith Medeiros will finish 34th. Scott Stenzel will come home in the 35th position. He got caught up in one of the late race restarts and had a very unfortunate end to his night. Jeffrey Ford finishes in the 36th position. Greg Evans will finish 37th. Ross Cato will finish 38th. 39th goes to Michael Waters. Eric Arnold, he stayed out on no tires at one point. He was leading this race. He comes home in 40th after getting caught up in a wreck. And then the last 3 cars in this field tonight are Stephanie Lessentine, Kevin Linden, and Braden Whittaker. That's your 43-car field here at the Texas Motor Speedway. Of course, once again, David Washington is the winner. And for you, James, I think you're down in victory lane, and he's holding them 6 slingers, and he is up there getting ready to celebrate a victory here at the Texas Motor Speedway.
6 slingers, 6 shooters, 6 whatever they are. They're guns and they fire, and they do that sort of thing in Texas very, very well. Along with the cowboy hat, too. Always a lot of fun when you get to victory lane in Texas. And for David Washington to go 3-3. Pretty stout run to start off the season. Talk about what tonight was like for you generally, and especially that last set of restarts with Daniel, finding a way to get to it on the outside. How'd you pull that off?
Just timing. That's all it was. They're really, usually the leader has the advantage, but just paying attention, listening to his engine, and getting on it and going. But yeah, it was a little wild there at the end.
I almost feel like, you could, if you wanted to, get complacent with this and say, oh, no, it's another win. What am I to do now? But I have to believe, knowing you and knowing everybody at Aegis Motorsports, that, they have been coming consistently, and the good finishes have been coming consistently, but they're always appreciated because it is so hard in this league to be able to do something like that. And it's an impressive accomplishment when you can go out and rattle out 3 wins in a row on this level of competition.
Yeah, it definitely is. I don't take any of these wins for granted. I'm week by week. We put in a ton of practice during the week together, and the whole team. We just lap by lap, you go through and try to get through pit cycles if you can, and you hit your box perfect and get off pit road, back up to speed, and all that stuff there. And usually it shakes out in the end. But when you have I wouldn't say a horrible race, but when you have tough races like this here, where it definitely pays to be good, staying out front and, running consistent, it pays off in the end.
Next week is Martinsville, too. We go short tracking for the first time this season. Any thoughts on what we should expect there and what you're looking forward to when we get to the paperclip?
Well, it's one of those tracks like that there that you really can't count your chickens before they hatch, because you will go backwards in a real hurry. No, we're going to take that one like we've done the past 3 weeks here. Just try to, qualify up towards the front and just see how the chips fall at the end.
Put the practice in, make sure you got a good setup, qualify, all that. Just standard fare, as far as I can tell from everybody and you and at Aegis. And I know there are a lot of people at Aegis, a lot of people that make this happen. So go ahead, take your moment, give your shout outs, and give thanks to the people that make these runs happen for the 98 car.
Yeah, definitely big shout out to Andy on the box every week. He does a tremendous job for actually 8 drivers now, not just 1, but 8. We got to give a shout out to my mom that watches every week. Julio, definitely, for putting this team together. And he actually, what I want to call is he stepped up to the plate big time and put a whole nother team together. So I'm really interested to see what those guys can do. You got Daniel, Carl, Bruce, Joseph, Dylan Jones, Andy, like I said on the box, Andrew, which he'll be coming in the second segment. He'll be on Team 2. Really good driver. Looking forward to seeing what he can do. Ross for racing in our team speak with us. Gidman, all a great bunch of guys. I enjoy racing with them.
Might look like it's just a one-man operation at the front of the field, but definitely not. A big team that makes it possible at Aegis Motorsports. For David Washington to go 3-3, congratulations to you, my friend, and we will see you 1 week from tonight in Virginia.
Thanks, guys.
So there's words from your now 3-in-a-row winner, the 98 of David Washington, and now down on pit road is Brian Macklin, who is caught up with Jeff Ward, who put together his best race of this young season with a second place finish.
Yeah, I've caught up with Jeff Ward. He's having a little bit of a celebration down here, having such a good run. Jeff, congratulations on your second place finish. A wild end to this race. Gave you an opportunity to go up there and try to challenge for the win, but you came up just short. Take us through your night there for the number 89 machine.
Yeah, Brian, that was a good night for us. Congrats to David. You know, guys on a tear. It's 3 in a row. I didn't race last season with Full Throttle, but I'm finding out fast that these Aegis boys, you know, once they group up like that, it's hard to get by them. I kind of feel like in motocross, like a privateer going against factory riders. But yeah, second place, man, that's awesome. Had a good car all night long. I was hoping we'd have a little bit more green flag runs because the car really started feeling good after about 15 laps. But you know, caution started falling there, and we just had to play the restart game and salvage what we could there at the end.
Yeah, and you guys had an incredible battle. Take us through the battle you had with Comstock and Bowie and Eberhardt in the last couple laps of that race, because it was exciting for us to watch. I can only imagine what you guys were going through down on the racetrack.
Well, there towards the end on the restarts, the outside seemed like it was moving a little bit better, and it gradually got better as the race went on. And Comstock, I don't know if he spun the tires or just misjudged it, but I got a pretty good boost there on the outside and was able to turn or pull down in front of him, and I threw a pretty good block on him. Me and David have always raced each other clean, but 3 to go. Didn't want to give up a chance to try to go run down David there, or David Washington. But yeah, it was a little hairy there, but it's a lot of clean race car drivers up there.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys put on a heck of a show, and we've opened this season with a host of speedway tracks, and 5 out of the first 6 races were all at 1.5 mile or bigger tracks, minus Phoenix. But now, for the next 3 weeks, you guys are going to head to some short track racing. You're going to start with Martinsville next week, then you're going to head to Bristol, and then you're heading to Richmond. We had a West Coast swing, now we're doing a short track swing. What are your thoughts on the next 3 races being all short tracks?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to a change of pace a little bit. Short tracks is kind of where my roots are, and I can't wait to get out there to the hair clip. Of course, it's always easy to get caught up in a wreck, so really you get onto these short tracks and it can go either way. We could come out of there maybe possibly with a win. These guys are fast, but it's not, it's definitely a possibility. But yeah, I like the short tracks. Looking forward to it.
All right, Jeff. Well, before we let you go, just want to give you an opportunity to say thank you to your sponsors and say hello to any friends or family that might be watching. Who makes it happen for you on the number 89 machine?
Yeah, I say thanks to you guys. Thanks to RSR. Thanks to Loud Pedal Motorsports, which is actually my team. It's just that none of them race over here with me. They race in another league. So thanks to those guys, and just thanks to friends and family.
All right, well, congrats on your finish here tonight, and we look forward to seeing you run at the Paperclip next week at Martinsville.
All right, Brian, thanks.
Yes, sir. That was Jeff Ward. He finishes second here tonight at the Texas Motor Speedway. His best finish on the season so far in the 2017 Full Throttle Cup Series. And James, we saw an incredible race here tonight, but we're going to Martinsville next week. That's going to be insane. You're going to see beating and banging and bumping runs, and it might be one of the best races we've seen all year.
I'd like to think that I have a good sense of what we're going to see at Martinsville, especially since that would be just about as close as you can get for me personally. And having had the pleasure of covering races there for a while, I see the real thing a lot. Saw the real thing a few weeks ago. And saw, I think really more than anything else, just perseverance is key more than anything. It helps to have a good car, and it helps to be quick, but to win at that place, you have to be patient, and you have to pick your battles, and you just can't push it the whole time. You have to know when to go, and there are definitely points where you have to run 110%, but knowing when to do that, I think, is the biggest key. So I almost think it's going to be the driver with the best mentality that makes it happen and gets the win next weekend, Brian.
Oh, absolutely. Martinsville is my favorite track to go to. It's my favorite track to race on. Almost wish I could be down on the racetrack with them next week, because it is an amazing racetrack to be on. And It's so fun, and like you said, it's a patience track because speed is a little bit of a factor. You definitely want to have some speed in the car, but you have to know when to use it, like you said, and you also have to know when to not be too aggressive. You can get very aggressive at that track at the wrong time, and you can cause a wreck that you can't avoid, and that could really ruin your day. So it's going to be a race of patience and a race of aggressiveness. It's going to be a mixture of those two, and who can handle that the best and who can manipulate that the best is going to be the one that comes out on top.
Yes, agreed with all of that, and I think Denny Hamlin could attest to this. If capacity races are an indication, make sure you don't wheel hop on corner entry and end up running way up the track and into somebody. So that would be another key as well, but we have to wait until next week here, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, to see the action from the oldest track in NASCAR's top division. But tonight we're going to go ahead and wrap up coverage of the Full Throttle Cup Series event from Texas. Colleague up in the booth, Brian Macklin, for our producer, Cisco Scaramuza, for John Abbott, Andy Kessler, Chad Cole, and the admins at RealSimRacing.com, for Brennan Mercer and everybody at Gary Mercer Trucking, for Laura Lawson and Evan Pasoko at LSRTV. I am James Spike saying thank you for watching tonight's broadcast, and we will see you next Monday night from the southwestern corner of the Commonwealth of Virginia. Good night.